Kia ora, everybody. Welcome to Tuariki Talks. My name is Tuariki Delamere, and today I'm going to discuss the incident in Parliament on Thursday where the Maori Party stormed out of Parliament. The two co-leaders, Rawiri Waititi and Debbie Ngarewa-Packer. So, in response to that, I posted in Facebook the following statement, which has got massive responses, several hundred responses, most supportive, because most Māori will support it, but certainly there were some were not happy with what I said. So what did I say? Let me read it out to you. The great white father, Trevor Mallard, puts those two uppity brownies in their place. You know, the two brownies who actually represent the indigenous brownies of Aotearoa. I mean, how dare Rawiri and Debbie have the audacity and cheek to think that one of the co-leaders of the Maori Party should be allowed to speak in the leaders' debate. How dare Rawiri think he should be allowed to raise a point of order in te reo Māori? How dare Rawiri think that just because the Parliament rulebook says that Māori is an official language of Parliament, that Speaker Mallard would allow him to raise a point of order in te reo Māori. How dare Rawiri and Debbie think that the Maori people and the Maori Party should be accorded equal treatment and recognition as a Pākehā-owned party? The racist attitudes and mindset of Trevor Mallard from the late 1990s, when I was in Parliament, have obviously not been consigned to history. His racism is alive and well. And how sad that we once again got to listen to the deafening silence of the Labour Party Maori MPs, not for them to confront the racism of their Pākehā masters. And I don't know, was that fair? Some think so, yes. Some think so, no. But what actually happened? Well, it started off when Labour's newly elected member for Mararewa, Arena Williams, stood up and moved that a respectful address be presented to Her Excellency the Governor-General in reply to Her Excellency's speech. And then Ms. Williams continued with her maiden speech. And at the conclusion of her maiden speech, Labour's newly elected list member, Ibrahim Omar, seconded the motion of Ms. Williams. And he then also continued to give his maiden speech. And so far, so good. Everything that was supposed to happen was happening. When the Governor-General's speech from the throne has been moved and seconded, as it has just been by Ms. Williams and Mr. Omar, the tikanga of Parliament, the protocol, is that the first member to speak to the Governor-General's address is always the Leader of the Opposition. And the Leader of the Opposition is the leader of the biggest party in Parliament, the National Party, that's the opposition party, and their leader is, as we all know, Judith Collins. And so on completion of Mr. Omar's speech, the speaker stood up and said, and I quote, "The question is that a respectful address be presented to Her Excellency, the Governor-General, in reply to her speech." And as expected, Judith Collins stood to make her speech. At the point where she said, "I move," the co-leader of the Maori Party, Rawiri Waititi, then stood up and said in English, "Point of order, Mr. Speaker." To which the Speaker responded, and I quote, "I'm not certain that there can be a point of order at this stage. The member has a very few seconds to convince me that there could be one. The call is very clearly that of the Honourable Judith Collins." Rawiri then started speaking to his point of order totally in te reo Māori. Rawiri made it for 10 seconds before the speaker stood up and shut him down and called on Ms. Collins to continue with her speech in the address and reply. And at that stage, Rawiri and Deborah exited Parliament, or as the media widely reported, stormed out of Parliament. So that's the background, and I made my statement, and Yeah, a lot of people agreed, Maori anyway, and some didn't. Now, my good friend Darian Fenton is a former Labour MP. Okay, now that Darian came into Parliament after me. And Darian on Facebook, she said, and I quote, Tuariki Delamere didn't notice you taking any stand on this issue when you were an MP for New Zealand First. From what I can see, Trevor Mallard tried to accommodate the Maori Party by moving around their maiden speeches so they could be heard on the first day of Parliament. They declined. JD has a bit to answer for in not giving them effective advice. Well, first I would say to you, Darian, that's certainly not as what is recorded in Hansard. As I've just alluded to before, Rawiri gave his reply, his point of order in Te Reo Māori for 10 seconds before he was shut down. So I'm not sure where you get this bit that that Trevor Mallard was trying to accommodate the Maori Party by moving around their maiden speeches. That was certainly not discussed at any time in the Hansard reports that I've read. But anyway, I replied to Darian, to her standard. She said, I'd never taken a stand on this issue when I was an MP. And I said to Darian, you wouldn't, would you, Darian, given you weren't there? She wasn't there in 1997, 99 when I was there. However, in 1997, I raised a point of order entirely in Te Reo Māori. Mr. Speaker asked me to translate my point of order. I refused on the grounds in Te Reo Māori that I was not required to do so, as Te Reo Māori was an official language of the House of Parliament. It took about 90 minutes to resolve, as the Speaker said business of the day could not continue until the point of order was dealt with. And that's the standing protocol back when I was in Parliament anyway. You can't continue until the point of order is addressed. And that's where I believe Speaker Mallard got things wrong. As he had no idea what Rawiri was saying, he should not have made his ruling until he actually knew what Rawiri's saying. Now, I make that point on the assumption, and maybe I'm wrong, done that a few times, but maybe I'm wrong, and Trevor Mallard is now fluent in Te Reo Māori. I don't think so, but maybe I'm wrong. But if he's not fluent in Te Reo Māori, then he actually had no idea what Rawiri was saying. Yes, he might be guessing and had an idea, but in terms of what Rawiri was saying in those 10 seconds, Speaker Mallard did not know what Rawiri was saying. And I continued on saying that if he had known that, he could have ruled with full knowledge that Rawiri's point of order was actually out of order. You can't make a point of order on what Rawiri was doing. But what my point is, Trevor Mallard didn't know when he stood up in the House and shut Rawiri down. Anyway, Darren responded to me, and we get on pretty well. We disagree, but probably many, many times, most of the time, I don't know. Anyway, she said, I didn't know. Good for you. Pity about propping up national. Sorry, I had to get that in. But I was sitting in the chamber for Arena and Ibrahim's speech. I saw what went down. I think Trevor did know what was being said. And as he explained, he's been around long enough to get the gist. Well, I got to disagree with you there, Darian, unless I am wrong, as I alluded to earlier, and Trevor is actually fluent in Te Reo Māori. And if he is fluent in Te Reo Māori, then yes, he would have known what Rawiri was saying, and yes, it was appropriate to stop Rawiri. However, what I do believe is where Speaker Mallard got things wrong. Even if he did know, he should have said and explained to the House why he shut Rawiri Waititi down. Anyway, those are my thoughts on what happened. Parliament has got a long way to go still. It was set up originally to deprive Maori of their lands, to deprive Maori of their reo, and to deprive Maori of their culture. That's what it was doing ever since it was established. Things have moved forward, and massively so, and positively so. I mean, you just have to look at the makeup of Parliament, makeup of Cabinet and the ministers, and we have made huge progress. But as we saw with the Rawiri and Deborah Stausch the other day, yeah, we still got a few things to work on. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Tuariki Talks today. So once again, we're still in COVID. Look after yourselves. You're on the buses, you're on the airlines, wear your mask. Kia ora.